G'day, welcome to Project Brupeg. My name's Damien. We're converting a sunken fishing trawler into a global expedition and research boat. I'm currently getting over man flu and we're going to start building some stainless corners. So a couple of weeks back you saw us cut these off the roof of the wheelhouse. So these are the corners, one's obviously bigger than the other, and the reason we did that is so that we can essentially modify the corners to be stainless so they're not going to rust out again, and also to put a curve in it so that it matches the back roof, and to fit these things. So these are 2-inch stainless drains that we're going to be welding into the corners. So we're going to make a few changes. Just bring up my computer-aided design here. So rather than having square corners like we've got with these two here, we're going to use a piece of chunky stainless pipe. We're going to slice it into quarters so that we end up with two halves like that. Then going to cut a piece of flat stainless that's going to go like that for both of them. I draw that like that, and then we're going to cut another piece of flat stainless either end there, slice a hole in the center, and that is essentially going to be our piece. We're just going to basically push all of these together and weld them up, and that's going to become this, made out of stainless with a nice curve in the corner and with that 2-inch drain, the internal threaded drain that we showed before. So let's get started. We'll get into these, see how fast they are to build. So first step, we need to go to the stainless bin, do a bit of shopping. I think we'll cut that bit up. A lot of the stuff I've got is sort of too thin to really do. It's either like that piece over there is ridiculously thick, or it's too thin to be any good. So this stuff here looks to me like about maybe 5mm, 4mm, something like that. That one over there is definitely a 4mm, I think. I need a 6, which is what this, basically there's a big frame on the top here. That whole lot there is a 6mm piece with a piece of probably maybe 16mm welded on top, 16mm round bar welded on top. I think this is probably part of the old sorting box, or maybe it was a hatch lid, something like that, off whatever boat it came out of. But we're going to cut that up. Those sides are perfect for what we need. Sometimes cheap plasma cutters don't necessarily make the nicest of lines, so you have to get in there with a little bit of negotiation towards the end. So now that we cut that out with the plasma, I'm going to clean all of those edges up with a grinder, fit it into my little, the originals to sort of see how close it is, and then we'll start marking out these pieces so that we can weld the whole lot together. The new pieces of flat are now all ground up, ready to go. We're going to start working on the corners. So to do that, got to slice down here on 3 different places so we can create essentially a 90-degree corner. There's a heap of grinding because I want to do this with a 5-inch grinder rather than the plasma, because I want a really straight, beautiful line. Okay, so it's another super windy day, so I've got myself tented in as much as I can in my metal shed so that I can weld up without getting porosity in my welds. The plan, now that I've got these two pieces cut, they essentially form the lovely curved corners. We're going to trim this to accept this, so it'll be trimmed so that it sort of sits like that. So we're going to lop the corner off. You can sort of see it up the top there. You got to lop that bit off. We'll cut it with a plasma, just so that we can get a nice easy radius. Doesn't have to be too pretty because all of it's going to be filled with a double continuous weld on either side. Once that's on, we're going to weld it quite big, so that there is 100mm or 4 inches. So you can sort of see this is, you know, significantly big, almost twice the size that I need. The reason I'm doing that is because when I put the two pieces together, let me think about this. The bit that goes on the back of the wheelhouse, so you got the piece that goes on the side, which is horizontal, and then you got the bit that goes on the back, and it does a curve like that across the back of the wheelhouse. So it sort of comes into the joint on a slight angle like that. So what I want to do is have the corner to be significantly bigger, and then I can just start to, you know, guide it all down with a grinder and make it look sort of beautiful. Probably not possible if I tried to just, cut it at 100mm. I'd probably end up with a bit of a funny wiggle or something where I welded it. So that's the reason why I've cut it the way I have. So the plan is trim these like that. Okay, one. Probably won't make any difference, but we'll just do that. Okay, let's go and buzz those off. I'll let those cool down, they're pretty hot. Go through, I'll clean them up with a grinder, and then we can start sort of tacking all of this together and get it ready to assemble onto the roof. I realised before I get carried away and do that, I need to go and flapper off all of the paint and rubbish from the surfaces, so I got really good, smooth, beautiful stainless to weld to, so I'll get everything cleaned up now, and then we can start tacking things together. So my two corners sit like that on the roof, and my game plan is to basically have the surface of these two drains to be completely flush in there, so you're not going to have like a lip the water has to go up and over. I want it to be able to run just straight down. So the way that I'm going to deal with that, flip them over and then push that in like so, run a bead around each of these drains, and then theoretically that's going to be basically a flush surface on the other side. I may fill it up with weld, just depends on how big a area there is on the other side to fill, and then sort of flapper it back so that it's flat. But first step is essentially weld this lot in. Now I will be able to weld up to about here and up to about here on the underside, but I'm not going to be able to do a double continuous around the back. Even though I've left half an inch, it's still not going to be enough room to get my gun in with a piece of whatever it is. It's going to be 60mm or something like that sticking up here, at least around that corner. It's not going to be enough, so I'm just going to have to do a bloody good weld on the other side around that corner, but I'm confident that that's fine. I'll have no issues about getting that done right. Same deal with this. There's no way I'm going to be able to weld into that corner, but I'll just get a nice decent solid weld on one side around that one corner. weld is way more effective when there's wire at the end of it.
Poor Dane has the flu, and yeah, we can't stop. He can't stop. So
press on. No, that's behaving really funny. They're not very good. Feels better that way.
what's the welder plate?
They're a bit shit, but they're easy. Like I can clean that up with technique. So fucking dreadful.
Oh, it's really blowy, eh? Need overalls just to protect yourself from the sparks.
I don't understand why it's doing it.
But they're okay welds, aren't they?
They'll do, but
you don't think they'll hold?
Oh, I'm going to grind them out and fix them because they're not great.
Qualities of metal make for a different weld.
Yeah, they're both the same grade. Everything's the same.
Like a sparkler.
Yeah, so that welding was an exercise in horrific. I don't know what the technical word is, but the wire, as it was coming out, it felt like it was coming out too fast and bouncing on the weld. And even when I backed it right off, like as if I was welding, say, 3mm steel, it was still doing the same thing. I mean, it's brand new stainless. It's not even grubby, you know. Like I flapped the first lot. I've put like a spray cleaner on. You saw me put a spray cleaner on. Still just couldn't get it to weld properly. So yeah, I don't know. Probably grind all these off and start again, I think. I've had a think. They don't have to be perfect. So I flapped them up. I've dug down pretty deep. There's a few sort of shitty bits around the edges and whatever that could definitely be better, but that'll do. It's just a drain in the corner of a roof, so if it leaks, the worst case scenario is there's a couple of drips external to that pipe, but almost all of it's going to go down that pipe. So what I'm thinking now is I'll buzz a small weld around the top there and then flapper it off smooth, and then that's pretty much that corner finished. I'll do exactly the same with that ugly, horrific looking weld there. Essentially create basically that all the way around. Then I will stick in the verticals, get those organised, and then we can start tacking things together and then put that long piece of 100x6 flat as our flat sides that go either side of that corner. This morning I thought I was going to be getting up early and welding onto the corner of that wheelhouse. I've narrowed down what's going on with the weird welds on the stainless. It's the gas. The gas has obviously got something going on with it. So it's Sunday now. Tomorrow I'll go in and grab some new gas and it'll mean that we can basically weld properly, so I'll put that job on hold. The flip side is Jess needs a major change in her editing station. So let me show you what we're doing. Normally she camps out in this recliner and she has her Mac, and this here you can see our voiceover mic, and Mac sits in there, printer and all the other associated bits that we use. That's not really working for her, so she's finding it harder and harder to stay upright in this chair and work, and it's not very ergonomic for her, and her body's basically just saying no, so we're making some big changes. Here is our Jess sitting there. So she's currently editing, basically lying down and finding it a heck of a lot easier on her body. So what the plan is see that black screen over the back, that's our TV. We're going to get rid of that. The Mac is obviously in a relatively temporary state at the moment, and we're going to build a hinge that goes on this front wall. So when we're not using the Mac, it'll sit up the top there. When we are, it'll swing down, come back and sort of sit just off the bed, but just in front of Jess at a normal sort of height. And then we're going to set all of the wireless mouse and keyboard and so on up just with a shelf on the side so that she can throw it all up there when she's not using it. With some of the lessons that we learned from the pantograph hinge, this door swings in almost the same arc that we want for the computer. So we're going to basically build a variation of this hinge. I know it's probably overkill, but it works really well for what we're trying to do. We need to get it compressed away against that front wall as much as possible when we're not using it, and when we are using it, we want it as far back as we can so that it's at the right sort of distance for Jess's eyes. So I've enlisted some CAD design, and we're going to have another go at pantograph hinge version 2. Now, before I show you my CAD software, I want you to be aware that it's not the latest model, and there's definitely more efficient packages out there, but it's a great all-rounder and it seems to do exactly what we need. So I'll show you what we use. This is CAD 1.0, so cardboard aided design. We've got some of the essential tools: pins, craft knives, scissors, dog mat, piece of plywood, and this is what we created. So let me show you how it works. This is our design. So this piece here is basically bolted to the wall, and this piece here gets bolted to the screen, and these are our arms. So they are different lengths and they control the angle of the screen as it comes down. So when we're not using it, this is bolted up against the wall up tight. Imagine the front of the cabin up here or the roof across there. When we want to pull the screen down, it comes down on an angle like that, and we've checked these angles with the front of the cabin. So the front has a slight curve back like that, and we want the screen to have a very slight angle when it's all set up and in position. Now the plan is there's obviously going to be a bit of weight on all of this. So we're going to have a safety cable that comes from this corner here down to stop it. If everything fails, it can't fall down and chop someone's leg off. The other side of it, we're also going to do a gas strut type arrangement, so the whole thing becomes weightless. So it's a pretty simple idea, and a lot of like car bonnets and things like that use like similar sort of hinges. Some of the lids you get on trays for like pickups or what we call them as utes. So yeah, it's pretty basic. So the plan is I'll build the whole thing out of stainless, so it's never going to rust when you have to think about it. But what I want to do is essentially create two frames. So the front, there'll be two of these hinges, and the frame will basically come around here and then up and over. That'll be one part, and then this part here that the screen bolts to will be the other, and that controls that dimension, stops it being able to wobble. And then these arms here are simply just to give it the up and down movement. Yeah, so I'm sure we'll change the design as we go, but that's my thoughts for now. Okay, so we've had some more changes to my plan. My plan was brilliant, and then it fell apart. So initially we were going to weld the roof corners back on in stainless, and long story short, we don't have the right gas, so that job's off. Tim gave me a text. Tim is organising all of our kitchen. He's building all of that. He's got 16 sheets of plywood that he's chopped up in a whole bunch of different shapes, and he's fitting the whole lot back together as essentially a flat pack kitchen that's going to come back up here, and we'll assemble it into Brupeg. He said that he's got one sheet of plywood left over, so we've quickly jumped off our jobs and we've designed up a table that's going to sit in Brupeg's lounge. So I'll show you what we're doing. So at the front end of the lounge, I've got a standard size wife for measurement purposes. What we're planning on, this is a piece of board that's 600 wide. So what we're thinking is we're going to have a 3-seater couch that sort of runs right the way along this wall here, and then we'll put a 600 wide bench style, what do you call it, table. Pretty much.
We're going to cut the, round both,
yeah,
right along.
Yeah, and then right over this side, this is the hole that goes down into the freezer room. So there's going to be like handrails and everything that sort of come down here so that you can't basically fall down there unintentionally. And then where that seat that Jess is sitting in, that's going to basically come all the way along the wall. There'll be a 3-seater version of that all the way along. Alright, table's designed. I've sent the details off to Tim, and he's going to start looking into what he can do with the wood that he's got. So we're back on the aluminium door over the side here. We do have gas that's capable of welding aluminium, so we're going to carry on with all of the bits that we need to do there. Essentially what I need to do is pretty simple. I actually just need to trim the edges to make sure that it all fits into the door. It's not fitting at the moment because the skin is slightly too big. So I'll go outside and I'll show you what we've got to do. So on the outside you can sort of see right up in the corner here, the aluminium doesn't quite fit. It's sticking out because obviously in the corner there it's a square corner and a round hole. It goes like that all the way around. So where that black mark is, I've got to trim off probably 3mm, something like that. I've also got to trim a wee bit off down this edge here, and then about the centre it starts being okay in terms of size, and then tapers back off to being slightly narrow at this bottom end. But then also if you come right down here, you can sort of see the aluminium is overlapping the steelwork on the cabin. So I've got to trim that aluminium off as well where that little mark is. So wee bit of fitting to do on it, and then we'll get this door sort of fitting in flush nice. Going to tap that closed. Alright, so I got to tell you a story. So the reason why I'm using such a ridiculously small bit on my router, this is a cheap router, and when you go to press this button in here to try and lock it up to undo it to change the bit, all the teeth in here are rounded, so there is no way right now that I can change this bit. So I'm using the only possible bit that I can. However, the finish is beautiful. Let me show you what it's doing. So I'm doing a few cuts. This is basically a roughing cut. You can see I just hold it out manually by hand and just sort of hack it out. It's pretty rough. Looks like teeth mark all the way along. But then this here is more of a finishing cut, and you can see that it's just a beautiful, crisp, lovely surface finish on the end of it. So that's what we're working down to. It just takes ages with this stupidly small cutter. See, the trouble with using a really small bit in a router like that is sometimes they don't want to be used, and yeah, this one's just decided to like part company. Plan B, we're using a skill saw. So the plan, it's nowhere near my preferred plan. The cut that this will leave is going to be okay, but it's nowhere near going to be as good as what a nice router would leave on the alloy. So anyway, long story, we're going to trim this off with the saw. It's going to be about 50 times faster than using that router, and the surface isn't going to be as great, but that's all we can do right now. Well, that was certainly quicker than I thought. So this is the finish that we're sort of getting out of it. You can sort of see there's a few sort of marks and what have you, but overall pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. It's not perfect certainly, and it's definitely not a router finish, but it's absolutely perfect for what we need. It's more than enough. I'm quite happy with that glue line. You can sort of see there the glue is maybe 1 millimetre thick all the way through there. It's pretty consistent and solid the whole way through, so I'm pretty happy with how that's gone. That should be a good analogue for the rest of the door, I'd say. So the door's back on. I've hooked it all up. It's still not perfect, still a bit more mucking around to do until I'm really happy with this one, but I'll show you how it fits on the outside. You can see it's starting to get a lot more flush with the cabin. So again, it's still a wee bit tight, it's not perfect, and I definitely need to do a bit more lining up around various parts of it. You can sort of see that gap now is coming to a couple of mil, 3 mil, something like that most of the place. Top's a wee bit tight, etc. But with a bit more mucking around, I reckon we'll get this spot on in the next day or so. I'll get that 4th dog on shortly, and then yeah, we can start working on the rubber. It's been a bitsy weekend on Brupeg, and on top of that the locals decided to set everything on fire. This time of year is known as the crush, where they harvest the sugar cane and then burn off the leftovers sitting in the field. We thought you'd like to see it.
It does create some amazing light, doesn't it?
Is something on fire?
Oh, there it is, look. Is that part of it?
Yeah.
It's that whole paddock, that's why it's a really long paddock.
Or something.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a couple.
Right. Oh, I see, they're joining together.
Rocks and sticks against my chest. I'm Alice, dear queen of hearts. I'ma grow you white roses, so you can learn to be kind. Tell King of Hearts to arm all his forces, so you can learn to be kind.
And he's boxed the crap out of it so nothing can move. I see bearings. Okay. That's my flange. He's machined it all smooth and everything.
Beautiful.
So that goes on the shaft.
Right.
And that bolts to the top of the rudder over there, so it hangs down from the shaft and then comes up in here. That's, I don't know what bearing it is, top or bottom, but it's one of them. So nice, lovely bearings. These pin that goes on the bottom here, so that'll go up in there like that. And that's the new pin that the rudder moves on.
Lovely.
Fits beautifully in there.
Gosh, lovely.
Pin and bolt down this bit. Oh, this is the key stock for the shaft.
Yep.
So there's a key in the top.
Yep.
That's my big nut that screws onto the top of the shaft, and from memory he put the thread on the shaft that's in here. He just copied it, saved him to build another one of those. That's a wear plate that goes on the very top of the rudder stock, and the full weight of the rudder sits on that basically, and that's what and then this has got grease on both sides. You can see there's a channel cut out there. There's a groove all the way around, and there's a channel cut out there, so, and there's a sort of a dimple. It's a bit hard to see in the light, but there's a dimple there. I'll get rid of the rubbish out of it, just there. and what that does is grease comes up the shaft in there and gets squirted out onto this face. It does it on both sides, so there's a groove on both sides, so it lubricates it. That must be the top bearing, bottom bearing, top bearing. The doodad for the generator oil filter. Real
Like Christmas.
fine M18 fine thread, really, with a hole down the centre. Real weird, bizarre thread, but
Wonderful.
needed it and couldn't find one anywhere.
Oh,
More bolts. Don't know what they're for. Can't remember yet.
there'll be some with ink in there.
Oh, I know what it's for. It's for his locking mechanism he built for the stabiliser pins. Johnny, this is friggin' awesome, mate. I don't really know how to say thanks for all of this stuff. It's incredible. Thank you.
Thanks so much, John. We really appreciate it. It's like Christmas. So
It is
gorgeous.
awesome.
And they're gorgeous. They're so gorgeous. If you're wondering why Dame is wearing a wool hat in Bundaberg, he's got man flu, so he's trying not to get any worse. Cheers, John.
See you, buddy.
See ya.
River's gonna cry when you're. River's gonna cry when you're. River's gonna cry when you're.